Let's now have a look at the relationship between presupposition and context. One of the problems with truth-based approach to presupposition has been that they somehow underestimate or deny the importance of sociocultural context in relation to the determination of the meanings of presuppositions or the determination of the presuppositions based on some general sentences. This created a lot of problem with the studies which showed that presuppositions are quite context sensitive. So the truth-based presupposition theories or approaches or point of views are being challenged based on this sensitivity of presupposition to context. In this regard, we can have a look of the examples of presuppositions produced by time adverbial clauses and have been given to us by Levinson. If you just look at the examples there, in the first example, we see that something is being presupposed by a time adverbial clause. And what is that? She cried before she finished her thesis. Before she finished her thesis, time adverbial clause. And we can assume from here that she finished her thesis. वो अपना thesis खत्म करने से पहले रोई. That means कि उसने अपना thesis खत्म कर लिया है, in simple words. But if we apply the same formula by changing the verb here, instead of cried, we use the word died. She died before she finished her thesis. Can we assume the same thing here? She finished her thesis? No, because we know that the dead people cannot finish their worldly tasks. So they cannot finish an unfinished thing in the world. So they are gone. So we cannot assume the same kind of stuff for the meaning with the help of such verb. So for this matter, we need to understand the context primarily. If we do not know the context, we cannot dwell the meaning, because we have a different context with the word cried and we have a different context with the word died. And the dead people, with our general knowledge of the world, we can assume, or we can say with some kind of a strong conviction, that they would not be able to finish their unfinished tasks in the world. So this kind of situation created some kind of defeasibility or the cancelling of presupposition. When a presupposition is cancelled by our general knowledge of the world, we roughly call it defeasibility, and this happens with most of our presuppositions, especially when we know the context. If we have a look at another example which is in front of you, it was Harry who Alice loved, and it was Alice who loved Harry. If we just look at the meaning being presented by both of these examples, you can see that the overall content meaning of these sentences are like Alice loving Harry or Alice loves Harry. But there is a change of emphasis or arrangement in both these sentences, and which shows that these sentences have been created in different sentences, in different contexts, or in different situations. So change in context might also affect the meaning of, or the pragmatic meaning of, these sentences. And for that matter, we need to rely on the information like whether it was Alice or Harry which were being discussed by the interlocutors or communicators. So if it was Harry, that might convey a different meaning. If it were Alice, that might convey an absolutely different meaning. Same phenomena is also repeated in case of intonations. While uttering certain sentences, we might emphasize on a certain portion or a certain word, and we do less emphasize, or we do not emphasize at all on some parts of sentence. Our emphasis or intonational preference with certain parts of a sentence do create different situations and thereby different meanings of those sentences. For example, if we say Alice loved Harry or Alice loved Harry, in these two sentences you can see the emphasis is on different words. In the first sentence, it is Harry which is being emphasized or probably is being discussed. And in second sentence, it is Alice which is being emphasized and probably being discussed. So the meaning would change with different intonations. Probably Alice is being discussed in the second sentence, and this discussion will be interpreted in the overall situation under which this statement has emerged. So there could be multiple contextual features or factors which may also help us to understand the knowledge of presupposition, because we can assume that these contextual features do affect the overall ability of the speakers to assume something or to derive meanings from those assumptions.